small entrepreneurial space. I mean, the sidewalk code is really supportive of placemaking. I mean, you can build a big blank wall, right?
This conference was very great and inspiring to me to build new things and make new ideas.
They're just fantastic, but if you can go around and they can introduce themselves and major and whether they're freshmen and so on. Just
your relationship. How many are leaving the state when you graduate? Show of hands. How many are leaving the state?
Depends.
Okay. So half and half it looks like. Well, this is good. I can tell you a year or two.
Eventually.
Year or two, of course. Just gotta go see what's out there. That's good.
did you hear that news?
You will.
about
You will.
Amazon?
Did you even think
I
about
did,
it?
yeah.
You know, the social in New York, California, it's over in a couple of years. We will not survive if the investment writers are leaving.
Okay. Let me get mine. I'm gonna do my water fountain first. Okay, good. I said this part needs a water fountain so that people can make it with four kids if they are not feeling good.
Oh, he does. We would love to help you.
Where am I?
Accomplish it. Yes.
Okay, good. They make a wish for the kids if they are not feeling good, if they can talk to God to help them
So you
feel
guys are
good.
just out of. So they're helping us design our park.
Alaysha.
Okay.
The park needs some trees for shade because it's really hot, but they still should have a water fountain.
Awesome.
Alaysha, can I?
As soon as we get home, it's usually homework time immediately. The kids have to use computers for almost everything at school. If they have a question, I'm now able to say, hey, we got to do this, whereas before I couldn't tell them how to do anything.
Talent is distributed equally throughout every neighborhood, but too often resources are not. Chattanooga has the fastest, cheapest, most pervasive internet in the world. That is the foundational piece for us doing something about digital equity.
Tech Goes Home partners with schools, churches, and other organizations to host digital literacy courses throughout Chattanooga and Hamilton County.
A lot of the individuals that come in don't have an email address and they don't have a laptop at home.
I was going down to my friend's house down the street. He had a computer and I was like just doing homework on his.
Participants receive a Chromebook or iPad or tablet, and we compile low-cost internet plans and distribute those. And we've served people as young as 2 to age 92.
The most remarkable part for me is to be able to watch our younger people interact with the older people.
We had a really great response from the families that participated in the class. It was done in a manner that they could understand.
When somebody needs me to send them an email, I can actually do it now when I couldn't do it.
Definitely do it. You learn a whole lot.
We have a waiting list now for people who are interested in participating.
This is incredibly important to Chattanooga because when people have those kind of skills and they have access to the web, they're in more control of their lives and they can do what they want.
So if you're looking to immerse yourself into the culture, into the city of Chattanooga, I feel like this is a place you need to come.
I had lived in Chattanooga for several years before I walked into the Etny. Here I found people who had the same interests as I did. I love Chattanooga now. I'm planning to stay.
Innovation centers are really common in Boston's and Austin's and Silicon Valley's.
First went to Chattanooga and sort of began, hearing about the Innovation District emerging. I didn't quite know what to make of it. I wasn't 100% sold that this was going to take off, and I've been totally blown away.
The theory of the Etny was that if you brought people together in one space, they would meet each other, they would share ideas, and they would collaborate.
What's most exciting to me about it is what I think of actually as the vertical integration of entrepreneurial resources and support that are literally stacked inside of the building.
We all do something different. We've been able to make connections and even make projects out of those connections.
You'll have sun. Looks like you'll have sun in again.
Yeah.
Is the visionary Geoff?
I wouldn't say visionary, but I'm here.
I read one of your things from yesterday. What did I read yesterday? Chattanooga, smart plan.
Yeah. Trying to think which one. Around the test bed or.
It was the smart city plan.
Yeah. Okay.
Glad you're here. It's fun to be.
Yeah. We're big followers of the things that are going on in Toronto with sidewalk labs and so forth and so on, and it looks like you guys are a couple of steps ahead of that.
Yeah, they really interesting work happening there in Toronto. Maybe not the way that everyone would roll that out.
Well, you have an interesting position. You're in charge of the vehicle that delivers and the orchestration of an execution.
And we own the data as well, which I think is actually pretty important.
Important, right? And did I get it right? I just briefly skimmed through it. Is the library your interface, or is it participating as an interface?
I believe we've done some events with the library, and they do have connections to things like some of the Lola platform. So we've been able to do some public facing stuff there. CYP is the Center for Urban Informatics and Progress, is the main center, and in the Sim Center, that's where some of the other community facing work, but also, the vast majority of the folks working on it are.
Well, very impressive. Pontiac, I mean, you may not know, but we began at the same time that you guys were orchestrating, but we got in a lawsuit for 5 years. So we virtually did nothing.
Yeah, so I was looking through the sort of large postery kind of guide and saw that one of the performance measures was settling a lawsuit, and I was curious as to what that was about. I figured it was something interesting.
That's an unfortunate thing when leadership does not recognize how the world has changed. And to that end, the Phoenix Center as a venue was thought to be merely a parking garage and a kind of entertainment venue because it has an amphitheater on top of a 6.5 acre campus. But of course, when that was built as an urban proposition, it probably had its deficits. But then, you know, fast forward 3 decades and it becomes something that is necessary. When they wanted to demolish it, we thought, what kind of insanity is that? And the whole theory was to allow people to come straight down Woodward into Pontiac Central. And the question you would have, of course, if you got rid of your parking structure is where would they park? And
it's a really common question, sort of no matter what you're doing. It's one of my favorite, I'm right in the middle of it. It's one of my favorite jokes to make with our urban design studio is around surface level parking and just watching them. But then I was doing a workshop with some high school students the other day and talked about, okay, so we've got this, you know, parking lot that's between 2 parking garages. What are you going to do there? And this girl's like, well, where are people going to park? Like the parking garage? She's like, I'm not parking the parking garages. I like right there. She spent the whole class. She knew it was driving me crazy. It was amazing. I finally got my comeuppance.
Is she on today? Can we get her on today? Because there's a central discussion there.
I sent her info to the design studio. I said, I've got an urban planner in the making. You should spend some time with this girl. She's whip smart.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you know, it's really interesting. Are you familiar with the term transition design?
Not super familiar. Give me another couple sentences.
We're going to drop a couple of things on you. So transition design is a body of work that's been going on for quite some time. And more recently, it's become recognized because communications has made us, you know, almost instantaneous. And really, who are the experts but the people that are participating or for whom something's being done for? Well, today, that's instantaneous, and the experts are the people that are being affected. So it makes everyone a designer.
I love that.
And yeah, it is. I think it's just a wonderful thing. It's a moment in time that answers a lot of questions and addresses a lot of the issues, and we can get really smart at how we go about things. And getting that kind of connection and collaboration between individuals and organizations and cities and you know, visitors and such and such and so forth is, I think, the work at hand.
Absolutely.
This is Andrew. Just a heads up, I won't have video. I'm on my work computer.
Okay, great. Hi, Andrew.
How's it going?
All right.
How's it work with GM?
It's interesting.
As always.
Hi, Monica and Jim. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hi, Annalie. We can hear you.
Okay, well, we still got about 5 minutes before we are supposed to formally start, though.
What are they gonna do when they do the conference and then they like what are they gonna start? What are they gonna do with the buildings and stuff?
We're gonna ask questions.
What are you guys gonna do with the buildings? Are you fixing them and stuff?
We're going to ask you what you would like to do with the Phoenix Center. What would be your ideas? What things should be there? As regards the Hidden River Park.
I'm gonna look at them. Look at camera.
As regards the Hidden River Park, where we're using the shipping container, we have to have your ideas about what should go in the shipping container. It's going to have a stage and a projector.
It's all about your ideas for the Phoenix Center. Pressure's on, Ethan.
Yeah,
So tell them, what do you think? They're gonna ask. We haven't started yet, have you?
We haven't. This is a good time to start.
Okay, good time to start. So Ethan, What ideas do you have for the Phoenix Center?
Maybe. Maybe add a little interest in it. Like maybe when you walk in, you feel how the place is gonna be.
We should go and walk and explore. Is that what you're asking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good idea.
What kind of things would you like to explore at the Phoenix Center?
Thank you. Like all the books that are famous and some other books that have that explore and like instead of using a computer, you can use a book to, like the book says stuff about websites and you don't have to look at technology, you can just read a book about it.
So we have a piece that we're doing on the front end that's part of the library. Have you been up to the Pontiac Library before?
Yes, yeah.
So we're going to extend the library annex over to the Phoenix Center so that you have, just as you were describing, books and the computers, and I believe they're doing a little lab there with robotics. Have you been to the robotics lab yet with Preston?
No.
I think that just opened like a week ago.
Okay.
Are you
Monica.
Yes.
You haven't talked in a while.
Okay, well, I'm getting calmed down and I'm sitting back down and gonna start talking. You might get sick of it in a minute.
So,
Ethan, please, no, we're so happy you're here. You're already bringing such fresh insights, and helping everyone. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Sorry, no, the other kids couldn't come. I mean, we called them out, but it's count day in schools too.
That's fine. I'll take Ethan any day.
We got Ethan.
Okay. All right, so I think we're right on target here. We're just gonna go ahead and start. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna go into introductions of who's joining us remotely. We'll go with Pontiac first. Jim is first of all, I'm Monica Williams. I'm the co-director and designer with Pontiac Holonomy Incubator. Holonomy means connecting parts with wholes. And Jim is our co-director. Jim, could you give us a sense of what transition design is? Quick overview.
Hi, I'm Jim Ross. I'm the chief disruptor at the Pontiac Holonomy Incubator. And one of the things that Monica's describing there is a thing called transition design. And for those of you who are familiar with design, you're probably familiar with industrial design or graphic arts design, but drawing and producing products and things of that nature. But transition design is more about the social sector and how we create additional ways in which to leverage social capital and so forth in the design process. So the advantage of that is it makes everyone a designer. And we're really excited about that body of work. It's been around for a decade or two. It's been codified and recognized, and I think in the situation we find ourselves in today is going to be very valuable. Let's move on to the next.
And joining us from Pontiac as well is Annalie Campos. Annalie, give us a sense of what you do at Oakland University and the global, particularly the collaboration that we've been developing for the last 6 semesters of the OU Global Cities and Human Systems course.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Annalie Campos. I teach at the Oakland University here in Rochester Hills. And I teach the global human systems and another class which is called Global Cities. And what my design for this class a slice of it is to introduce and bring students to a real city experience, an experience that hopefully would orient them to the realities of cities, and Pontiac being just a stone's throw away from Oakland University. I thought that this Pontiac would be the best place for us to learn about possibilities, opportunities, strengths, weaknesses, and threats presented to a city. And so I basically just bring them for a field trip, ask them to conduct a SWOT analysis, landscape analysis, and it's just very inspiring and interesting to hear students making comments and learning from these field trips. For example, the last time we were there was I asked students to do a cultural landscape analysis and picked the best and the worst image or images that they can find within the downtown city of Pontiac. And it's amazing how they bring ideas, especially when it comes to possibilities of what the city of Pontiac could become, given its existing, assets, the Phoenix Center, the buildings that have been around and could potentially be renovated. But they also describe many of the spots and many of the, they would say, weaknesses of Pontiac. So just bringing this experience and making them really see and feel the city of Pontiac, instead of just hearing what others said about it, dangerous and not so much going on. They actually come in and bring fresh ideas, and that to me is a good way for not just bringing awareness to them of the existence of Pontiac, but also a lot of ideas that they can bring into a conversation, especially as we look out how Pontiac can become in the days ahead.
Great.
So that's kind of my brief description of what we do in with my class in Pontiac.
And I might add to that those young people are our customers, and we're really looking to their insights as living and working and playing in a city to feature our ways in which we go about rectifying some of the opportunities that for the last 20 years, maybe 3 decades, have not been available. So they've just provided a very youthful, fascinating insight as to what makes them tick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And also from Pontiac joining us, we have Michelle Guzinski, who's a teacher with Oakland Family Services. And she has brought our great friend Ethan with her. Ethan, give us the sense, what did we start over the summer? We're at the beginning phases of a pilot program, and you guys were the drivers and the catalyst for that this summer. It was a happy, spontaneous accident that we ran into Michelle as she was bringing the students downtown, and we've done pilot programs, but this was a very informal that just kind of blossomed from us meeting and saying, hey, let's go tour the city. Ethan, tell us what we did over the summer and what your thoughts are.
So what we did was we wrote notes that what we wanted to do to help the city and what we wanted to add into it. And we put it on these boards, and then one of them said future, past, and present. So, and we came up with ideas to make everything useful, not just say I don't want it and just throw it away. we made something new in life, and we helped it.
Wow, thank you for that. And Michelle, what were your takeaways?
We stumbled we met by accident. It was pure accident, just going for a random walk. And these kids were allowed, they came up with so many great ideas on what they would like to see in the city. And I really believe and agree with Jim and Monica that getting the young people into the city brings families into the city, and it's going to create a future for the city. And there's so many possibilities and so many things that can happen if people work together. And I love the idea that people like Ethan and some of the other great kids we had this summer can be part of that.
Wonderful. Okay, we're going to shift into our Chattanooga friends and partners who are joining us. We have Geoff Millener here. Geoff, thank you for participating in this. Okay, okay, I think we're good. The sound went away. Geoff, you're the Digital Equity Officer for the Enterprise Center. And recently, your mayor, Andy Burke, was on a Smart Cities Expo summit, I believe it was, and he stated that every home, school, and business in Chattanooga has digital access. And that's an amazing accomplishment. Congratulations. And please give us a sense of why digital equity is so important, and also what does the Enterprise Center do within the context of an innovation district?
Sure. I'll start with the Enterprise Center and we'll work into digital equity. So I am the Digital Equity Officer here. The Enterprise Center is an economic development nonprofit with a real tech focus. So we have 3 areas of work. One is actually the innovation district itself. The second is research and application development, leveraging the gig, leveraging fiber, leveraging the connectivity we have in Chattanooga. And then this idea of digital equity, making sure that, you know, as we make these investments and bets on the information economy, on kind of what the future can look like, we're not excluding anybody from participating in that future. And so that's the real heart of that work. We can, because we have this incredible municipal fiber network, every home, business, anyone who has power can connect to the internet. It is important to sort of note that there are still some barriers like affordability that we know are a challenge, and we have some kind of state legislation that makes that a little bit tricky. But in general, you know, we work in lots of different ways. What's really important to us is that, you know, I mentioned those 3 areas of work: the innovation district, research and application development on all these advanced applications, and digital equity, that those things aren't treated as separate. That even when you talk about place, we live in, you know, I can pick up a bunch of devices that are on my desk right now. You know, we live in this combined physical digital world. Digital access and physical access are intimately connected, and making sure that everybody has both the access and on-ramps to beginning to participate. And then, you know, when we talk about the potential of the gig, that there's that capacity to dream, the access to things that are happening at that far end. So actually a lot of our deployments work with public schools, making sure that students K-12, K-16 have access to the same kind of stuff that the advanced researchers are using. That's a big part of what our digital equity efforts look like in Chattanooga.
Thank you for that. And we have Marcus Shaw is with us today. Marcus, you're the CEO of Co.Lab.
Yep.
Give us a sense of what Co.Lab does as sort of the interface to the innovation district.
Thank you so much, Monica. My name is Marcus Shaw. I run Co.Lab. Co.Lab is our entrepreneurship and venture development organization. So our mission is to help entrepreneurs increase the capability and viability of their businesses here by exposing them to expertise, resources, and community. Our values are really rooted in a maker mentality, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. So we believe that people will operate at a higher level as an entrepreneur if they feel a sense of belonging. And that's really rooted in selfless ecosystem building. And so that is where we really tie into this placemaking concept, and that we believe a physical space that allows people to have their highest sense of belonging, allow them to express their maker mentality and innovation in entrepreneurial ways, which are focused on increasing customers, increasing capital, increasing capacity, will better position the city for economic development. We work on this belief that there's innovation, there's entrepreneurship, and there's economic development, and how we can help people move along that continuum will make Chattanooga a better place. We work in several different ways with high growth companies through our accelerator programs, and also with local mom and pop. I'm sure some of you have had coffee over at Goodman's or had a drink over at Flying Squirrel. Those are local companies that are here in Chattanooga that do extremely well, but have come through our Co-Starters program. And so we have this twin dynamic of, folks from Dayton and from Indianapolis, where your cities are like ours, are kind of in that mid-tier, second-tier city. And we don't really have the ability to separate entrepreneurship into people that are raising, hundreds of millions of dollars and people that, just need $50,000 to open a storefront. For a city like Chattanooga, it's incredibly important that we attack both of those issues with the same dynamic. And we have an entrepreneurial philosophy that's rooted in building, managing, and selling. Your toolkits around that are confidence, knowledge, and relationships. And again, your objectives, whether you're raising $20 million or raising $50,000 or even $10,000, is increase your customers, your capital, and your capacity. We are also, like the Enterprise Center, located in the Innovation Center. There's an incredible story about that, and it's been covered pretty well by Brookings and folks here. Most recently, we were covered as part of the Rise to the Rest. Steve Case and Revolution talked about that in the Innovation Center. An incredible testimony of what can happen when you envision a space that once belonged to TVA. For folks, that Tennessee Valley Authority is the country's largest government-owned wholesale power producer. It used to be where they did their audit and their drug testing, right? And so a few years ago, I guess now 5 years ago, TVA actually decided to let the city conduct an RFP process. The process was done for what was a fairly inexpensive amount of money. The building was bought with the intention of creating an innovation center right downtown. It's in the heart of the Innovation District. It's right across from Patent Towers. The guy that was running Geoff's organization, the Enterprise Center, Ken Hayes, is a great buddy and was a big part of understanding how you can re-envision real estate and what that can do for the city. That building, people didn't believe you could get it occupied. Within a year, it was 100% occupied with a backlog. We occupy the first floor. The Enterprise Center upstairs on the 5th floor not only occupies part of that, but also operates the community space, which has hundreds of events and tens of thousands of people kind of coming through that building each year. As part of Startup Week, which is at the end of this month, that's kind of the headquarters for Startup Week. So, when you think of entrepreneurship, this is incredibly important for a city like Chattanooga and really, mid-sized and emerging cities all over the world. Understand how
Library Startup Week with the library.
Yeah. Town open makers the city by the chamber, by other organizations that are doing podcasts. They actually rent out the studio, and they don't rent it out. There's no cost, right? All you have to do is reserve it. It is absolutely phenomenal space. Laser cutting, 3D printing. Brie can talk about some of the work that she's done just around screen printing and prototyping. So there are incredible resources over there at the library. We actually are hosting, we're calling it our Maker Day, but we had Maker Fair here. We've been the organization that's been running Maker Fair here in Chattanooga for the past 5 years, I'm sorry. Last year, we decided to collaborate with the library, and it was absolutely phenomenal because the library already has some built-in traffic. It's there on Saturdays, but bringing the Maker Fair to that place not only activated the people that were normally there on Saturdays, but brought a couple of thousand other people that are normally, you know, at kids' soccer games or sleeping in late or brunching or do whatever cool people do, right? But it brought them to this space, and I can tell you that for my family, I've got a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. The Maker Faire is kind of the most awesome day in Chattanooga from a family perspective, because there's something for everybody. I mean, literally from, you know, kids all the way up through senior citizens. It really shows what happens when you partner, right? Trying to do it by yourself is one thing, but when you partner with an organization that's already put some intentionality around placemaking in space, it really creates an even more powerful experience. So that's something that's been fun for us. And again, it's not, you know, we're not here just to build businesses. Our core philosophy and our core value starts with, you got to have a maker mentality. So whether you're making a better lemonade or whether you're making, you know, some whiz bang semiconductor, right? You've got to have this intellectual curiosity that makes you want to do stuff. And if you have a place that allows you to think about that in a really creative way and nurtures that environment, we think that that's special.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Take your seat back.
I don't want to touch one thing. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Marcus. And now we have Brie with us, Brie Stevens. And Brie is a Chattanooga entrepreneur. And you also were a fellow at Co.Lab. And you also live in the Tomorrow building. Tell us a bit about your experience here, Brie, and why you choose to be and locate your business and your energies in Chattanooga.
Yes, so just to tell you guys a little bit about my background, I've lived in 3 different cities now in the state of Tennessee. And after traveling all of those cities and going all of the places that I could go, I found that Chattanooga was one of a kind. It was very unique. I, like many others like me, are kind of a good example of how Chattanooga, you know, seeks people out for entrepreneurship and for job placement and for revitalization of these communities, and then how we go through these funnels of help and assistance and community and friendship. And so a lot of us have started in one place and we found ourselves in completely different places. Because Chattanooga has such awesome resources like the Tomorrow building that is there to serve for people that are like me, single, young, innovative, from a different place, have never been here before, but the Tomorrow building sits in the middle of downtown. And so when I moved here, I had never seen architecture and places and spaces that served quite the way that Chattanooga has done that. And so even in the Tomorrow building, there's, you know, things that I did not have to worry about thanks to Marcus finding that building for me and finding that space and that place. Because again, we're talking about placemaking. I did not have a place quite like this anywhere else in the state of Tennessee. A place that opened its arms up and said, hey, you're an entrepreneur. Hi, you are educated. Hi, you are the future. And the Tomorrow building represents that, just like Co.Lab does, just like the Incubator, just like anything else. So relocating my business here has been a pull and a tug, especially with my partners being all the way in Clarksville. I'm the only person that is here in the city, but it has been a wonderful, wonderful, eye-opening experience for me to be able to see that there are places that are set up for people's success. So I love it here in Chattanooga, and everything is in walking distance, and everything is interconnected and intertwined. And if you need someone in the city, or you need advice, or you need help, again, it's right on. It's taken to every city and community and the resources and the funds. Because little girls that look like me, that sound like me, that do the things that I do, should be able to be exposed and put into different environments that are not their norm.
Wow, thank you for that, Brie. Okay, Jim, first, does anyone in the room have any questions or insights, any reflection, anything you want to share?
Because the Tomorrow building, is that a place to live?
Yes.
So the Tomorrow building is actually owned by Second Story Realty Company. Second Story Realty is located in downtown, and I don't know the history because I've only been here for about 7 months. But I will tell you, when I am moving, just like any of us have moved before, you know, the first thing you think about is, oh man, you know, where am I gonna park? Or what about transportation? Or what about the, you know, I'm 24 guys. So first thing I'm like, I don't have a washer or a dryer. I don't have a full kitchen. I mean, there are things about moving that become stressful when somebody calls you, like Marcus Shaw, and says, hey, get over here. And I don't care how many miles you got to cross to do it, but we need you to leave from Memphis overnight and we need you to come to Chattanooga. And I'm like, Chattanooga? But when you hear from the Second Story Realty and they say, hey, we have a place that has a kitchen on every floor and we have a place that has a laundry room inside of it, that immediately relieves stress, as you all can imagine, just moving and having to deal with my parents as well. So the Tomorrow building has a lot of studio 1 and 2 bedroom apartments that are intended, like I said, for people that are coming into the city, that are here to work, that are here. And it is, because it is a block away from TVA, it's a block away from banks, it's 2 blocks away from the Edney, and it's right dab in the middle of the Innovation District. It becomes way too easy to say yes to a space to live there. And I know that you guys have been 24 before, so you remember what moving around was like or moving out was like. So
Thank you. Anybody else?
So Monica, what I think we should do is let's see if we can hear from the audience, the co-creators there, just a thought about, 1, where they came from, and 2, what was their major objective in coming to the conference?
Great idea.
Sure.
Is it?
Yeah, I guess I'll go and you don't have to see me. Yeah. My name is Natasha Main. I'm from Colorado Springs, but lived in Memphis for a while. So I'm here because I run an organization called Peak Startup, and we work with entrepreneurial support. So I'm really interested in innovation districts and the work that you're doing because it overlaps.
Great.
Hi, my name is Annalie. I'm from Indiana. I work with the city public spaces, and so we're just trying to get a deeper understanding of what all this would mean.
We're going to have to get her closer to the microphone.
Yeah, could you just speak up kind of loudly and maybe come in closer if you can?
Hi, I'm Laura Wasky. I'm the Director of Strategic Projects for the Downtown Dayton Partnership in Dayton, Ohio. And I came to connect with others from throughout the country. We have an innovation district we're starting. I manage a public art and mural program in our city, and there were a lot of sessions on the agenda that was interesting.
My name is Nate Storing. I'm the Director of Communications and Project for Public Spaces. And before that, I was actually researching the connection between placemaking and an innovation district. So probably in Chattanooga the first time. And
we've read your work.
Oh, thanks. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Wally Resents. I'm from Hawaii. I work for the County of Kauai in the Parks Department. I'm just trying to figure out ways to leverage the parks.
Wow, interesting. Did you hear that, everyone? Did
No.
you hear that? He's here from Kauai. And,
Wow.
Yes. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Catherine Ferrer. I'm from Bradenton, Florida. Placemaking economic development nonprofit in the downtown historic core. And we are also really excited to explore the connections between placemaking and encouraging entrepreneurs and startups and innovation in our small but very beautiful historic city.
I'm sorry. This is Ben, and Ben runs this bus that we're on. And it's an initiative of the Tennessee, of the government of Tennessee, and it goes around to the rural counties. Can you tell us some more about that, Ben?
Sure. So this is part of the Driving Innovation Program, which is a state entrepreneur PCD project, community development project. We have 3 units. One is a STEM lab that travels throughout the state. Another is an entrepreneurship bus, so helps entrepreneurs and small businesses. And then we have this 3rd bus, which is the AMP, which is made for placemaking. The mission of all of those units is to serve the distressed and at-risk rural counties inside of the state. There's roughly 55 to 60 inside of the state of Tennessee. And so these buses kind of go end to end, serving those very rural areas what Marcus was talking about throughout the state, especially to the tier 3 and tier 4.
I should highlight why there are only 95 counties in the state. So when you're saying 55 or 60, you're talking 2/3 of the state doesn't have access to like an any innovation center, right? So what the folks out and you guys are in Jackson, right? That's great. What they're doing is just incredible in terms of reaching places where permanent infrastructure hasn't been developed.
And we're trying to push them into areas where, so there's 7 entrepreneurship centers throughout the state. We're trying to make the rural areas aware of those, because 9 times out of 10, they're within 60 to 100 miles of one of these innovation centers. And so we're just trying to get the word out to rural areas that these centers are there for them as well as us coming to them.
Wow, thank you so much. Are you hearing everyone right?
Yeah, here's a 10-point toss-up, Ben. How do we replicate something like that in another state? Because in certain instances, we have, not the advantages that Tennessee has in some of the funding recipients that they've been over the last decade. And Michigan in particularly finds itself in a pretty low position in terms of competitiveness with other states. We're like 45th, 47th, 48th, 49th. And I think this is the kind of thing that becomes that outlier that education's not aware of yet. Any thoughts?
A lot of kudos have to be given to the ECD here in Tennessee. They've really kind of taken an entrepreneurship approach to things, and this is kind of a risky proposition that is working out well for them, but it was a risk, and honestly, kudos to them for a state government entity taking a risk like that. That's pretty
Yes, it is.
But we need more of that kind of example in order to change the minds of those who imagine that change is going to happen from the very problem that we've been executing on. So I'm really interested in what you're doing and how you're doing it, as I said yesterday.
This is the second time this unit's actually hit the road. So it's basically brand new. We're still working the bug down on it, but this is the second of it.
Wow. Pretty bug free.
So far.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Ben. Anybody else have questions for Ben on the phone or anyone? Okay.
Annalie, do you have any thoughts about how, I know you had, and we've talked about this before, about how we might bring something from Oakland University and the value that the university represents to the equation in the city of Pontiac. And this is the kind of thing, I believe, that could be somewhat of a focus element for what you were describing as a value-added program.
Yes, I've participated in the OU Pontiac initiatives. I've attended a few of their meetings, and there are exciting things that are happening, but I just thought that I have to focus on how I might be able to get students excited about partnering with Pontiac directly. They engage in a whole lot of activities and volunteer activities in different areas, but I haven't heard of any project really specific to directly with the Pontiac initiative. There might be some programs or projects that I don't know, but I have been exploring how we might be able to get some approval with Oakland University in such a way that it's not just a kind of a one-time, twice, 2 times a semester kind of visit in Pontiac, but literally trying to situate a more organized kind of a formal arrangement between Pontiac, specifically with Monica and Jim, and with us, my students, or with me. And so how is that going to be like is still in the making. I'm still exploring with some of the key representative at Oakland U on how we might do this. But at this point, I encourage students to bring out their ideas and how they feel about the city and what might they would be able to contribute. One of the projects, like I mentioned earlier, one of the projects that we did was to conduct a cultural landscape analysis. And I don't know if I can show you one of the students' product or project. I don't know how I might be able to share this. Let me see. Do you want me to share this with you? I have another screen here, my computer, and see if you'll be able to see this.
You just have it for the host to only share, but you can send me an email and I can upload it.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think I'll do that. Anyways, so that's kind of what I'm doing right now, just exploring how we might be able to come up with more of a formal arrangement, since I cannot just usher the students without the university's sort of approval. Even with a field trip, we have to sign papers so that, kind of a protection for the university, so that they're not going to be liable in case something, God forbid, happens to us, 10 minutes away from Oakland University campus. So there are more to talk about, hopefully when you come back, Monica, and give you an update on what I'm doing with the university.
Wonderful.
And yeah.
In some cases, what others are doing in other places have value in leverage, particularly in a digital format, that require a streamlining, if you will, of efforts and funding. So it may be that we can find some ways in which to optimize that in terms of replication.
Yep, possible, but there are definitely some ropes to kind of uncover, and that's what I'm trying to do right now.
We understand. We've been working with that effort on behalf of Oakland University for 5 years, so we know the deep underplate there, and as well, we've had those kinds of conversations with some of the deans, DiMaggio and a couple of others, and maybe the timing's getting better now that we have no litigation on the Phoenix Center. So we might find that as being a catalyst for what is necessary to really move the Phoenix Center into some kind of focus that delivers on behalf of the community.
Yep. I agree.
Great, thank you. We still have some participants here that we haven't got to.
Terrific.
Architect and engineering firm, and I came to this conference just to learn more about placemaking from a different perspective, because I'm a designer, so looking at it from the perspective of like city officials and people that are doing work and not like necessarily from a design eye. Just learn more about placemaking.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Martino. I come from Milan, Italy, and I work for a real estate company. We have a big park in the city and the urban farm. On one floor of this urban farm, we want to have a little innovation district. So understand how we do in Chattanooga.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, so I'm Robbie Melton. I'm from Kauai. I'm the head of economic development. My former life is doing everything you're doing. So I did entrepreneurship, incubators, accelerators, seed funding. And now in Kauai, which is very rural, we're very small, an island of 72,000 people, is really interested in this workshop because I'm not sure what social infrastructure is, and really interested in the sort of digital design thinking and how we can maybe take these tools from this workshop and take them back to our very rural, small community.
My name is Mary Kim. I'm actually also from Chattanooga. I work for a consulting agency called Bridge Innovate. And I mean, in general, I think I'm a transplant as well. So I'm not originally from here, but I think I lived in very distinctive places in Austin, Savannah, and I would say one of the reasons why my husband and I moved here is because of the distinctiveness of Chattanooga, like Brie was mentioning. And Bridge Innovate, we also, work a lot of, with nonprofits, corporations, students of design thinking, and we are also working on trying to find ways to virtually collaborate and working on a platform called Sprint Day. So we were really curious to see how we can leverage a lot of the tools. And I was mentioning also Allison and Geoff, like shout out for also working on some of our student programs utilizing design thinking. And I think that's one of the cool things about Chattanooga here and Marcus too. Like there's so many people that are dedicated to the place itself, and we're willing to collaborate and do what it takes to make this place more unique and place for people. And I think that's it gets me excited about what the fact that the placemaking week is here and that we can be a part of it. Wow, thank you so much. I'm going to learn more about your work.
Hello, everybody. I'm last but not least, last participant. I'm Tracy Nordstrom, and I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm a placemaker by day. I'm a consultant. I work on individual projects. My background, it comes with public spaces, parks and recreation, and how we activate all of our public spaces. And I have recently taken over the leadership of the Towerside Innovation District, which is in the city of Minneapolis and also in the city of St. Paul. It spans both cities, 2 counties, part of a regional metropolitan planning area. And it's kind of a no man's land between these 2 amazing cities. It has yet to be developed, and I am helping to lead the nonprofit that is trying to lead innovation, the technology, the placemaking, the public health, all of these initiatives that come together in innovation, education, housing, transportation, workforce development. And I came to Chattanooga to learn about the Innovation District here, and my number 1 concern is how to fund what the nonprofit is doing to make sure that we get ahead of the development, to make sure that it's not about buildings, it's about the people who live there, work there, and to interact in our public spaces, being very mindful of equity. Because otherwise it ends up being a playground still for the rich, those who have access to capital, and those who look like so that's my main goal.
One thing I think to Tracy's point, and it's something that we've thought about a lot, like kind of the formula for innovation is being really talented people, but you gotta be intentional about trying to, it's almost like portfolio construction, right? Like, yes, like Coca-Cola can be a really good stock, but not to build my whole pension plan off Coca-Cola stock, right? I'm gonna intentionally diversify with other things. So like try to find the highest performing, highest right? Put them in the least expensive real estate that you can find, right? And then surround them with like the most, experienced, like endowed people that you can find, like most resourceful people, right? So it's basically take valuable assets, put them in, the least expensive assets, and surround them by the most resources. And you kind of get innovation out of that, right? And then the next step for entrepreneurship is like create some market access and liquidity of capital. And then the economic development lens, right, is kind of the third portion. You've got to reinvest, right, for entrepreneurs that win. They've got to put capital back in, so they got to reinvest. You got to have a real eye to keep that talent that you put in the building in the first place. You got to keep them in the area, right? Maybe it's a better building, but you can't have them like flee. Or you've got to have some type of trade where you're getting people coming as the people that are getting sharp and getting other opportunities are leaving, right? And then you've kind of got to have what I call like this culture of curiosity, where you're like really growth oriented, right? Like your growth mindset, you're never happy with what you have. You're always having some portion, it's probably people in this room, in your communities that are always thinking about, okay, we've done well, but how do we do better, right? And that's what makes people come from Italy to Chattanooga, right? I mean, Milan's been a great city for about 3,000 years, right? So, I mean, the fact that you're here trying to figure out, like, what can a city of 500,000 people in the Southeast US, how can that help Milan? That's a culture of curiosity, right? So somebody's got to have that. But I think to your point, like you gotta be really intentional about that initial step of who are you putting in places. And I think, Chattanooga's done a pretty good job of making sure, I mean, we're not perfect. Not all of our places are as diverse as we would want them to be, or as inclusive as we want them to be. But I think the places that are tip of the spear on innovation and on entrepreneurship and on economic development are being very intentionally inclusive. And that's, part of the people in this room and on the screen is the government, city, and county, I think, are doing a great job of that. The university, everybody's partnered.
If I could follow up, maybe anybody else can answer this question, but for us, the area that I'm working in is an area with a lot of brownfields, and it was industrial. It was right of way of railroads back when Minneapolis was a giant transportation hub for agricultural products. So we're getting some of that land back, but it's hard to stay ahead of the developers because they're buying the land so quickly, and their bottom line is different than the bottom line of even our economic development people, but it's definitely not necessarily aligned with equity initiatives. It's not in line with the integration ideas that the mayor has of wanting to create a community that's not as segregated and as Minneapolis is, as many of our cities are. Minneapolis is incredibly segregated because of 150 years of policy that said some people live here and some people live here. And our runway is so long to try and raise capital and to get the government on board, to get the nonprofits on board, to get the businesses, the corporations. So it's really a puzzle, and I feel like time is ticking to get an innovation district going that also addresses really complex social issues ahead of the developers who want to build what they build. We have a housing crisis like many cities. So they're throwing up apartment buildings as fast as they can, but then we're losing the opportunity to have community meeting spaces, to have incubators for startups, to even have decent setbacks, to have activated public spaces, or the opportunity to have activated public spaces, public arts, fountains, mobile seating, any of the stuff that gives a district vibe and energy. And the developers aren't necessarily motivated by the same things the rest of us are. So I'm open to any suggestions that you all have.
Yeah. I mean, Marcus can answer this as well as anyone. I mean, I don't have an answer to all of that, and neither does Chattanooga. It's what we're working on too. But the Edney story is about that private-public partnership, that bringing on a developer owns this building that I'm standing in, that Co.Lab is in the base of, and we sold them on the vision of a space like what you're talking about in the heart of the innovation district, and that we could fill that with the nonprofits, the entrepreneurs, we can build diversity, that this can start to build a community like that. And so we worked in conjunction with the developers to do that. They had to buy into our idea, but Marcus said, Ken Hayes, my old boss, is very good at getting people to buy into ideas. They went with it. Like I said, we're 100% full. We're across the street from one of the largest subsidized housing developments in Chattanooga. We don't have our own parking. There are all kinds of reasons that people said this building would not work. And so far it's working pretty well.
So a codifying element of that is also, the funding initiative on behalf of opportunity zones, which the criteria, as just stated, is being addressed as we speak. And it's not traditionally recognized by most of the developers because the work that's necessary to be done is not the work that they are used to doing. So I think some of that element of opportunity zone funding goes right to the very issues that are being discussed right here.
So how is your innovation district structured? Like, what's the organization?
Well, we have a nonprofit that came out of the adjacent residential neighborhood that really had a simple goal, which was to get a grocery store. It's really simple. It was an everyday thing. They knew the development was coming, and the neighborhood almost 20 years ago said, we need to have some influence in how this is developing for the benefit, not just of the residents who are here now, but the next generation. And we want to provide business opportunity because people have to have jobs. Minneapolis, like many cities, is so segmented in that work is here, homes are here, public space is here, government is here, hospitals are here, and we have a shitty transportation system. We now have light rail, and so the light rail runs right through our innovation district, an amazing asset. But the government so far is the building codes are such, it's not codified to say you need to provide X number of space that for affordable housing, X number of space, small entrepreneurial space. I mean, the sidewalk code is barely supportive of placemaking. I mean, you can build a big blank wall right to the edge of the 3-foot sidewalk and then put signs down the middle of it so that you can't even, you know what I'm talking about. So we have a nonprofit that owns no property, that has no big giant corporate sponsor, and has come out of a total grassroots organization that says, wait a minute, we don't want the development to get ahead of our human needs and the needs of those that aren't even at the table. So there's my bad answer.
Do you have any institutional anchors in the district?
The University of Minnesota is gigantic and is there on the western edge of the Innovation District, which is why it's theoretically there because of research and development.
Where are they on all of this?
Yeah, okay, so they're sort of mildly about 3 feet away from the table, like they're kind of monitoring. You know what I'm saying? I haven't figured out, and I'm brand new in my role. I've been there 6 months, and I'm going to change the world. They're not really at the table because they've got their fingers in a lot of other pies. And the city of Minneapolis is actually doing pretty well in entrepreneurship, but it's scattered everywhere. And people go, innovation district, And I see it as an opportunity to do all the stuff that you guys are all working on in your cities, including art, including culture, including a cool place to live, including health, and startup stuff. So I want the universe to happen here, but I gotta find partners with some.
Yeah. So I mean, the rule, kind of our formula for innovation economy is, smart people, cheap real estate, but third and most important is people with resources, right? So in Chattanooga, if you haven't heard, right, the foundations are very big in this story. Not just in the innovation district, but really not necessarily in the ND, but in the culture of building that continuum from innovation, entrepreneurship, to economic development, right? Benwood and Lyndhurst are two of the larger foundations here. They contribute, to education, K-12. They contribute to economic development. They contribute to arts. They contribute to placemaking. They're a big part of the story, and so Minneapolis is interesting, right? Because I think you guys are behind New York in terms of largest corporate headquarters per capita in the country. Problem is they're all publicly traded and they all have shareholder values. Their number one motive. Yep. But somewhere there's probably some really wealthy family foundations that need to be educated on why this is important. And I think that was the story here. That is a big part of the story. We have 3 kind of corporate headquarters here of size relative to Minneapolis. We've got a large public university and 3 kind of liberal arts schools in proximity. We've got a big hospital and then another hospital that's smaller hospital than the footprint of a large system. But the foundations here have been really instrumental in helping drive this importance around placement.
And I would say, an example of Lyndhurst, you might have heard Kathleen Nolte or even Thrive Regional Partnership with Bridget Massengo, you know, they have a program called Thriving Communities, and they use design thinking and in ways to help ignite, you know, it's not just Chattanooga, and it's also activating places around the city, so people don't think that you only have to go to Chattanooga. It's really I don't know, it's just, it's an ecosystem. It's not just one city. So how do you come and benefit from the assets of each of these distinctive places around you? So even, you know, the fact that Thrive Regional Partnership covers the 60-county region and Lyndhurst, you know, being focused on arts and cultural assets, and kind of how do you turn that into economic development has helped a lot of these communities, including Chattanooga, and boosting that, you know, kind of curiosity at the same time movement, and just being a catalyst for some of these large projects that are initiated here.
This is how we do that.
What did you say, Jim? Sorry.
This is how we do that.
Yes. So how might we continue this collaboration? Any ideas from anyone? These conversations are meaningful to continue.
I mean, I think, you know, one thing, we get a lot of delegations that come through kind of as part of chamber work and economic development work. I think one thing that's helpful is kind of finding your peers, right, in different cities. And I mean, Nate's done this longer than anybody now, right? I mean, it's kind of, how do you find, like, you know, I kind of know who my peer is in either big cities, but also like other mid-sized cities. And understanding kind of what the relationships that are needed. Like, I think a lot like design thinking. It's like, here's the shape of the relationships that I need to build. And like, I've got 5 people that I need to be in contact with, and I know 3 of them, but the other 2, I don't know how to get to them, right? So in your case, it seems like you're 6 months in, probably need to find the foundation folks that care about the arts and care about placemaking. I think the arts are a good lead in for this, because physical and visual, right? And it's probably like, I went to Chattanooga, and you know what? You should come down to Chattanooga and, you know, see what's going on.
I'm bringing it
Yeah.
I need this bus though. Can you drive out? Everybody has drive it back here.
I think Mary's point too, though. Then, I mean, just to point out, like, he does not hit another major city for 2 hours once you leave here. And there's, you know, hundreds of thousands of people between them, right? So when you're thinking about, like, it is not really just about Chattanooga, like Thrive. I mean, those 16 counties, even dipping down into North Georgia, North Alabama. You know, Minneapolis is kind of similar, right? I mean, once you leave there in St. Paul, like, you've got a few hours that you're driving.
Rochester's 90 miles.
90 miles, right? So you got an hour and a half or so. You know, I grew up in DC. Like, there's within 30 minutes, you're like every other 30 minutes, there's a big city, right? But I think most of the country looks like Minnesota, looks like Chattanooga, looks like, you know, Dayton, right? It means Ohio is like, that's why it's the caucus, like whatever happens in Ohio, that's what's gonna happen in the rest of the country. But I think, you know, figuring out something like what they've got going on, where you can have an extension to whatever you're doing in your core. If you think about that intentionally from the beginning, then you probably get more buy-in from other folks too.
Any other thoughts from our remote participants? We have Ethan. Ethan, are you still with us? See, you've got some friends there too. Okay.
Hey, Monica. Monica, I'll chime in at the end here.
Okay, I see Natalie Broda just chimed in. We'd love to hear from her. Natalie, can you unmute?
Yeah. I was taking notes and everything you guys were talking about. Didn't want to interrupt everything. So for those who don't know me, my name is Natalie Broda. I am the Pontiac reporter for the Oakland Press. I've been in the city for about 3.5 years now. I know Jim and Monica pretty well just through covering their efforts on the Phoenix Center and placemaking in Pontiac. I guess listening to everything you guys had to say, my one thing I wanted to chime in on is definitely keep going with all of this, and never be afraid to approach the media and try and explain these concepts to them. I think that there will be always some pushback from regular mainstream media to cover things like this because it's so highly academic. But if you can find a way to bring things down to what we in the business call the 8th grade reading level, you know, and explain it to them like that so they can explain it to their readers, I think it's always an interesting topic. And on top of that, you know, if you can get them to come out to your events and really get video or photos of what's going on, things like parking day, you know, regular people will see that and learn for themselves what these high academic ideas mean, and it gets them involved, I think. So good stuff that you guys have going here. That was my one little piece of advice, I guess.
Thanks, Natalie. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that, Natalie. I'm glad you got to chime in at the last minute here. And that's a great way to end. We got a couple more minutes. Is anyone else? I'll be taking this link of this board here. This is what it looks like when it's not zoomed in on that piece on the bottom. And it's an interactive piece. And I'm going to put the link into our SCED description. So you can all access that material if you want to dive. Those are all clickable links. Each piece is a PDF or a story, and we'll add some more as we process this conversation. One way we might continue a conversation. And I guess that's it. Thank you so much, everyone who participated remotely and here. This is a great conversation. Jim, do you have any final summary thoughts? We have a minute left.
1 minute left. What I'm thinking is I would like to take this opportunity to thank Monica. She's been on this project for too many years, and to bring it into fruition and bring it home to Chattanooga, I think that's outstanding on her behalf. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Geoff, do you have any summary thoughts?
So you don't know me well enough, Monica, to know that's a very dangerous question, and we don't have another half hour. No, it's one of the things that I think a number of folks touched on is, this isn't just about us. It isn't just about our region. It's about what happens, particularly with a sometimes contentious national discourse, the kinds of amazing stuff that can happen when cities and communities work together, and the people who do this work every day talk about how to do it better, how to solve these challenges. You know, it's exciting to have opportunities like this, and Chattanooga certainly likes facilitating them.
Wow, thank you. Brie?
Yes, I appreciate the conversation around what's next and the effort behind places that need to be made. You guys have looked outside of yourselves, and I told you that when we had our conversation, Monica, that looking outside yourself was already the first thing. But now I have a recommendation for you guys, if it's okay, and that would be to kind of look to yourselves. I know that Pontiac, and I know that the city of Pontiac and surrounding areas probably has a whole lot to offer. And I think one of the most important things that Marcus showed me in coming to Chattanooga was just connecting the dots that were already there and not really making new dots. So there are things that you guys already have working for you. And I think that you guys are already on the right path with just having the conversation of who are those key players and who do we want to bring in. But the year 2020 is going to be really prosperous for the city of Pontiac, just because you all have already started to spread the word about, you know, different things that are going on. Y'all have already gotten everyone's attention that's been a part of this conversation. And I don't know if we would have had this without you guys. So I am humbly blessed and grateful for this conversation.
Wow, thank you. Annalie, what are some of your thoughts from us?
Well, I really enjoyed listening to the conversation, and I was hoping also to hear from participants if they had, you know, knowledge or stories about university community partnerships. I came from a tradition at Michigan State where there was a strong university and community engagement, and I am very much excited to see more of these in OU, and hopefully having worked with you and Jim in the last 2 or 3 years, that we could
really make, see things happening and formally, and we can usher real talents from our students at OU. And so looking forward.
Great, thank you. You lost right there. And any last words from our
Yeah.
The internet connection is a little unstable, and we're a couple minutes over here. Can we get a couple of last words from our downtown youth program and the young people who've joined us today and blessed us with their fresh ideas? Michelle, where'd they go?
Hi, unmute. We had Alaysha came with us too.
Great, thank you for joining us.
Alaysha, do you want to add anything the last minute?
No.
No? Ethan, do you have anything else
you had what
want to say?
Oh wait, I want to tell you this.
This conference was very great and inspiring to me to build new things and make new ideas.
Oh, wow. There, right there. That's an ending there. And I want you all to know that I brought your sticky notes with me to Tennessee, and they're hanging up on the door out there. So our participants here are going to see your ideas that you shared with us over the summer. And I know Alaysha gave us some ideas there, and she's not sharing right now, but they get to see her sticky notes anyways, Alaysha. Okay.
Thank you for having us.
That's a wrap. Thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your conference.
Thank you.
I'm shutting down now. I want to keep talking, but bye.